All right, guys, you're here with Josh Thomson. We're doing another edition of Punk's Opinions. Producer Dave is on vacation, pretty much. So I said,
not,
you know
apparently.
what? Huh?
I said, no, I'm not, apparently.
So I said, you know what? Let's put this man to work. Let's go. Let's go. Look, also, too, I was going to talk to you guys about real quick is that couple little things that dropped today. Some fight news we're going to talk over. Not a whole lot going on. We've been dropping something every day this week, so not a whole lot going on that we didn't talk about already from yesterday. But if you guys like our videos, hit the like button on the YouTube. That'll help everyone else understand that likes these type of videos. That somebody else has liked this video, and that will help share our videos as well. Also hit the notification buttons, get the bell and the notice when we drop new stuff, new content that will come through on your phone. And obviously hit the subscribe button. You have all these things. We have iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, SoundCloud, YouTube, all these things. So if you guys can, please, I'd really appreciate it. And thanks for looking out, man. I truly appreciate it. So let's talk real quick about some news that dropped just as recently. And obviously it's kind of hits home with me. Big fan and one of my closest friends just signed to fight again against somebody that I've also have fought also against Clay Guida. BJ Penn and Clay Guida has been officially announced. That fight will be coming up. For me, honestly, it's just one of those things. I would like to see BJ retire. And not to say that he can't win this fight. It's going to be a tough fight for him. Clay Guida, him and I have fought from before as well. Can you scroll down on Clay's thing? Yeah, he's got it. He obviously has a loss against Charles Oliveira. He beat Joe Lazon, beat Eric Koch. He's beat some good guys. Lost to Brian Ortega, but who hasn't lost to that guy except for Max? Thiago Tavares. Clay has lost to some guys that are at the top. Dennis Bermudez, Chad Mendes. His losses are to the guys that are still kind of right there in that. In that title talk a little bit right now, still to this day. So all those things being said, BJ not having a win, I want to say in probably the last 5 or 6 fights. Scroll down on BJ's. Yeah, so he's, and look, BJ and I, and just full disclosure, one of my closest friends in the sport. We trained together for years. I've helped him train as well for a lot of his fights as well. Been out to Hawaii a bunch of times. Look, we're really close. He has nothing, and honestly, he has nothing left to prove. He did things before. People are doing things now, and they're considering it like that they have done it, and he did it before then. Like he was fighting guys in the heavyweight division, guys at 185 pounds. He was fighting guys at 170. He was fighting guys at 155. Now he's fought at 145. He's fought at every weight class from 145 all the way up to heavyweight. So he did all that stuff. 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, he was doing that stuff. 2-division champion. Long time ago, so the fact that he's got nothing else to prove, my honest opinion is I have no idea why he's still fighting. He doesn't need the money. He owns several UFC gyms in Hawaii, one in Waikele, one in Honolulu. There's another one that they put in, and I think they're opening a fourth one. I want to say there's one going in Maui, but regardless, I know he owns 3. That he's got his name stamped on, and I believe it's like 40 or it's like I think he owns like either 40 or 60% of each gym that he has put the money out to make sure that those gyms are going. The money's not really an issue, and everyone knows this. I have no idea why he's still fighting. I know he's in a different place now, physically and with other home stuff and family stuff and things like that. He's in a very good place. I thought physically he looked the best I had ever seen him look for the Ryan Hall fight. But that being said, I think that, people had feared his jiu-jitsu for so long and just didn't really, all they did was want to try to wrestle him and take him down and do those things. Ryan Hall was not that person. And I expected BJ to come in a little bit more prepared for that fight in that type of stuff. I would imagine he trained for it, but I think when you get in there and something like that happens, it does change things. Now, all of that being said, it's just a different, BJ fighting someone like Clay Guida. Clay's probably going to potentially take him down. The fight on the feet makes for an interesting fight. I think Clay's a little bit faster than BJ. I think BJ hits a little bit harder. As far as, BJ just got some miles on him. He just fought so many guys. If you scroll down the list of the guys that he's fought, from everyone from Matt Hughes, Frankie Edgar, John Fitch, Nick Diaz, Rory McDonald, Yair Rodriguez. I mean, like Sean Shirk, Joe Stevenson, Jens Pulver, Matt Hughes. He fought Matt Hughes 3 times, GSP twice. I mean, like Renzo Gracie, Rodrigo, Lyoto Machida was at 220 pounds. He fought him. Dwayne Ludwig, Takanori Gomi, Carl Uno, Matt Sarek fought Uno twice, Jens Pulver twice, Din Thomas. I mean, like, the list goes on and on. He was fighting guys that were always at the best. He never wanted to fight guys that weren't until as of recently. Like, it's not that he asked for, I think, the easy fight, but he's just that guy, man. He never asked for an easy fight, always wanted the toughest fight. When he left after beating Matt Hughes and fought Takanori Gomi, when he left after that fight, before then, when he left and fought Takanori Gomi, like that fight had happened before the Matt Hughes fight. Sorry, my bad. But when he had left for that fight, there was contract stuff going on, and he went off and did his own thing. He just paved his own way for Rumble on the Rock and did his own thing, and reached out to Gomi and said, look, we want you to come over and fight us and have this fight happen. Your guy against my guy. I'll pay you this. And that was the first time a fighter had went off and done their own thing and started a promotion, and they had piggybacked something off of him, and he had done something that was huge. It was unprecedented. Like, obviously in the sport, it was a relatively young sport, but he paved the way for other fighters to understand that, like, you're able to do those type of things. And I'll forever be grateful for, like, those type of things that he's done, because it opened my eyes. I think that I feel blind, that some fighters feel blind, that are blinded to. And I'll give you an example, give you a couple examples, is that I would have been that guy that would have had BJ not done the certain things that he had done, that believed that, like, oh man, the UFC is the only place to be. The UFC is the only place to be. Like, I can't go anywhere else. And as of recently, I had a fighter reach out to me and not just one, I have had several, but I actually had a conversation and a talk with one of the fighters, a girl fighter actually, and she was interested in coming over to Bellator, but she said what a lot of fighters think is, like, I don't know what I would do. I wouldn't know, like, if I went somewhere else, how I would do and what would happen. Like, I wouldn't know where to go. If it doesn't work there, I can't come back. It's almost like you're shutting the door once you leave on a promotion. And I want people to understand that you're not shutting that door. If you win in another organization, you keep winning in that organization. And Anthony Johnson is proof of that, is that you can leave and go to another organization and be dominant there and then come back. And they will always take you back. And if I honestly believe Anthony Johnson being Anthony Johnson, it was better for him to leave, figure his things out with his weights and all his other things, get big wins over there in the PFL or whatever it was called at the time. He got big wins over there in that organization, and the UFC brought him back for way more money than they were paying him before he left. And that lets you know, like, they'll do what if you go to another organization, you can always come back as long as you're winning. But that goes for any organization. Like, one organization is not going to probably want you if you're losing all the time. And so when you go to another organization and you win, UFC will always take you back. ONE FC will always have an interest in you. Bellator, same thing. If you go to the UFC or you're from the UFC and you go to ONE FC and you're winning over there, Bellator will almost always probably would like to sign you. And the same thing goes for the UFC. They would probably like to take you from them and show that if you're having a dominant performance over there, that they would still probably would enjoy signing you. Same thing for the PFL. Those athletes are not... it's not like that as if they can't get in. It's just a matter of the organizations, as long as you're winning, they will want you. And you just got to keep showing that you're winning your fights and winning impressively and doing these things to build your brand. And those organizations will want to sign you. And I think BJ was one of the first guys that showed that his brand could grow and could be big enough to piggyback a promotion, and he did it with Rumble on the Rock to the point where Elite XC bought him. Elite XC joined with Rumble on the Rock and bought pretty much their fighters, not BJ, but bought the ones that they had under contract with them. And then, are they still around? No, they sold to Elite XC. Elite XC got basically just folded, but then Strikeforce took over a lot of their fighters. So that was back in the day. But that's my point is that he did a lot of those things, and I have no idea why he's still fighting. To me, I don't feel like this is a good fight for him. But I also did notice that I've through texts and conversation and the fact that after seeing his last performance against Ryan Hall, as far as physically, he looked good. And after talking with him as of recently, he said he continues to train every day. He's been training every day, whereas before you could tell he wasn't training, and talking in conversations with him was proof that he wasn't training. Now he's in a better place mentally and physically. So I think this makes for an interesting fight. I hope we see the best BJ Penn we can see. But when people look at him and people are saying that this is affecting his legacy in the sport, I highly disagree. I mean, the reason why I highly disagree is because when you look back at guys like Muhammad Ali, he lost a lot of his last fights, and we don't talk about those fights. We talk about the Frazier fights, and the George Foreman fight, and some of the other top fights that he had. Mike Tyson. We don't talk about all the losses he had at the end of his career. We talk about kind of how he lost a lot of money. We talk about that as well, but we also talk about the resurgence of him now, and as well as like, man, how feared he was back when he was younger, when he first broke into the scene. I mean, he was still feared even after he got out of jail and things like that. Those are the things that people remember and talk about, and man, what his career and legacy and everything, how much bigger it would have been had he not went to jail and came. And those are things that people talk about in conversation piece, but we never talk about like at the end of the career, oh man, they shit the bed, they weren't doing well. We never talk about that. Those aren't things you talk about. Like, you just simply remember all the great times and all the big wins that they had, and the same thing can be said for, like, say, someone like Chuck Liddell or somebody like Rich Franklin or somebody like Randy Couture. They have a lot of losses, but don't ever hold that against them, because if you want, the bottom line is that BJ Penn never ducked anybody. He fought all the best guys. He fought for his right to get paid the most amount of money to represent his brand, which was himself. And he knew at the end of the day, when his whole career was over, the promotion would still live on and live on without you, and beyond, the sport still goes on without you. And he wanted to make sure he was taken care of. And I think he's just still doing it. I have no idea why he's still fighting. He obviously doesn't need the money, but I think he just loves fighting, and it still shows. I'm just glad he's in a better place right now. We're going to potentially see, hopefully, the best BJ Penn we've seen in the last, 5 or 6 fights. So that's my cap on that fight. Clay Guida, tough guy. Very, very good conditioning, which has always been one of BJ's weaknesses, except for in some of his lightweight fights, and also when he was younger. And he brings a lot of different things to go against BJ Penn. Now, BJ is obviously not the easiest guy to take down, so that makes for an interesting fight. But on the feet, I think Clay's probably a little bit faster, but I think BJ hits a little bit harder. So we'll see exactly what happens in this fight. What's the date on this thing? May 10th? Yep. Yeah, May 10th is when that fight is scheduled for UFC 237. I wish them both luck, and I'll always root for BJ just because BJ's my boy.
Plus,
my Puna boy.
Clay beat you.
Huh?
Plus, Clay beat you.
Yeah, Clay did beat me, by the way. He did. I always need my producer, Dave, to point out the obvious. Mr. Captain fucking obvious over here. Anyways, all right. So I think I keep hitting my phone. And so then, yeah. Okay, so next one.
Does Tony Ferguson move to 170 after he dropped a hint on Twitter?
I don't think so. I don't think he does.
The mess of the lightweight division as well.
But why not go to 45 and fight Max?
You think he can cut that?
He says he can, and that's the thing. Is if you can go to 45, I mean, he's a skinny guy. I don't know if he can make it. He says he does. He always says, I don't have a hard time making 55, which I find to be very strange because he's tall, long, lanky, but he is pretty skinny.
But what's wrong with him going to 70 then?
My thought process on 170 is that when I fought him, and I'm only speaking from experience, you guys, so go ahead and try to crucify me for what I'm actually giving and dropping knowledge on, is that my experience is that physically he is not a strong person. But I've said this 1,000 times. He's got really big hands. So when he grabs your wrist, his fingers and hands wrap completely like around my wrist. I was having a hard time like getting my wrist back, my hands and my arms back from inside his grasp. So that I think his body can definitely do it. I just don't think it's something he should do. Like, okay, like in 3 months, I'm going to fight at 170. I just don't think that that's a good idea. You know, especially for him, he's one fight away from a title shot. Why go up there, fight at 170? What are you going to do? Go fight a chump? And what happens if you lose to, like, not a chump? What are you going to do? Go up there, you're going to fight someone who's not in the really, maybe ranked in the top 10, but not really. And let's just be honest, 170's they're pretty stacked right now. They're pretty stacked. I mean, you know, I wouldn't mind watching him fight Stephen Thomson, because that would be an interesting fight. We would just see, like, Stephen Thomson is physically, I don't think, that strong. I mean, from what I understand, from what I see, from what people have told me, he's not physically strong. His technique and his style makes it very difficult for people to get in on him. Tony is long and lanky as well. Has a great push kick. Does really weird stuff. Will maybe throw Stephen Thomson off. I think it makes for a very interesting fight. If he was to go to 170, I would like to see that fight happen. Now, I do understand that at March 23rd, Anthony Pettis is scheduled to fight Stephen Thomson, but that's a fight I would like to see. Now, the fact is, we just saw a great fight between Anthony Pettis and Stephen Thomson, but styles make matchups, and I think the fight with Tony Ferguson is a good fight he can win.
You said we saw a great fight between Anthony Pettis and Stephen Thomson?
No, sorry, Anthony Pettis and Tony Ferguson.
Oh.
That was a great fight. Great fight. This fight, Anthony Pettis and Stephen Thomson, is coming up on March 23rd. So that should be a great fight as well. I mean, we're gonna see. I think I would have liked to have seen Stephen Thomson fight someone like Tony Ferguson if he was to make the jump. But if you pull up the 170-pound division, everyone else, I probably would try to keep him away from. That would be it. I mean, you could maybe have him fight RDA, because RDA used to be a 155-pounder, and that fight could possibly Ben Askren. I don't want to see him fight Ben Askren. I really don't care to see him fight Darren Till. It would be interesting if he fought Colby Covington.
Do you think he likes the idea, though, of somebody that, like Usman, who, you know, wrestle fucked Woodley, Askren, who wrestles? Because when he fought you're mostly wrestling, right? And the kicks.
No, I mean, like, it's more I do more stand up, but I mean, I consider myself to be pretty well rounded. Not that he's not. I think like Darren Till is pretty much he's a lot more one dimensional, not a lot of grappling. Colby Covington has some wrestling with some stand up. You know, like Usman, I think is just physically too strong for him after fighting Tony. He's not a strong guy. Okay, super talented, does things that most people, you know, a lot of people don't do or won't expect him to do, but he does it. And the other thing as well is, if he didn't take the fight at 155 for the interim title, why would you go up in weight and fight guys? Because the speculation is that he's potentially like a little bit still hurt. Why would you go up and fight guys that could do more damage to you? It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I think maybe he needs to work on maybe what he's talking about is putting a little size on, maybe to get a little bit stronger, getting ready for maybe a Khabib fight, or, you know, the winner of the interim title fight between Dustin Poirier and what's his name, and Max Holloway. I mean, maybe I wouldn't mind seeing the Max Holloway and Tony Ferguson fight either. Maybe at 45 or maybe even at 55. Who's to say that Khabib is going to be ready to fight, you know, Max, if Max wins, or Dustin right away? So you never know. Maybe Tony will just step right into that chance to fight for that interim title against the winner of those two guys. Maybe by then he'll realize that, you know, maybe I should take this fight, you know, if Khabib's not ready to fight by then, or I believe he will be, but, you know. That about sums that up. I mean, I don't think he's going to go to 170. It just doesn't make sense. If you didn't take the interim title fight because there's speculation that maybe you're still trying to kind of heal up and get your body right, it doesn't make sense to go to 70 and fight guys that are bigger and stronger. And
if the word is that more that he's frustrated with the lightweight division,
I would imagine he is.
He's expressed that, right? He doesn't.
Yeah.
Part of why he doesn't want it is because he doesn't want to get a belt he already has.
I think my honest thing is that, like I said, I've said this over and over again. It's his age. He should have taken the interim title fight. Should have fought Dustin Poirier or Max. He should have fought Max. I think with a win over Max, there would be no. And look, everyone was criticizing the fact that like, oh, well, interim titles don't mean shit. Dude, he got hurt. The UFC thought he was going to be out for a year. He was the interim champion. All he had to do was get to the fight. He got the automatic. He was the one fighting for the title. It wasn't like they said, fuck you. We're going to pull this away from you. Like, they had full intentions of giving him they were the week of the fight. They were there the week of the fight for them to fight. He was there ready to fight. He got injured. It was unfortunate. But the UFC also thought he'd be out for a long time after talking with their doctors, after hearing what the injury was. They thought he was going to be out for a long period of time. So they're like, look, Khabib's going to fight Ali Quinta for the title. They had the fight. Khabib won. Then Conor and Khabib fought. Now Tony's healthy, ready to fight. And they offered him the shot at the interim title. And when Khabib comes back in October or whatever, November, when he's ready to fight, they're going to have the winner of that's going to fight for the title. And he should have taken that fight because they've shown that they're willing to have that interim guy go ahead and fight. As far as the Colby Covington thing, I don't know if he did turn down the fight or if he didn't, or if he just said, hey, can you push it a little bit later because I'm already doing something. That's for kind of what I heard. But whatever that thing was, if you're the interim champion, you got to be ready to fight at all times. You're the you're the interim champion ready to fight for the real title. You got to be ready to fight at all times. And Colby apparently wasn't, and that's why they stripped him. I'm not a big fan of all this interim title bullshit, but the one knock I will say is, like, Tony should have taken the fight unless he's comfortable with trying to heal his body or having to heal his body, taking time to heal his body completely, and then potentially just waiting until basically he's going to have to wait until the beginning of next year for the winner of this fight. For the winner of Khabib and whoever wins the interim title, he's going to have to wait until the beginning of next year. That's it. I would say like January, February, sometime around there, he's going to have to wait till around that time. That's tough, man. That's a long time off. You know, he's already been off for, 4 months? Something like that when he fought Pettis. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's like, fuck, man, that sucks. But you can't, he kind of did it to himself. You know, who knows? I'm excited to see him fight. I cannot wait to watch him fight. I honestly believe he should be next in line for the title shot. But I don't understand why he didn't take the fight with Max Holloway. I don't get it. That's the one thing I don't understand. You know, unless he is still dealing with a little bit of injury and wanted to make sure he's 100% healthy. I get that. But those are things we don't know. We're just speculating. We're just, you know, as Tony commented on one of my tweets, he's like, homie, you talk too much, get back to training. So but it is what it is, man. I'm just, you know, we're everyone's speculating right now on whether he's injured and trying to heal up, which is why he turned down the fight, or if he just didn't want to fight for interim title, which in his eyes didn't mean shit because he got injured and then wasn't able to defend it. So I understand that. Who knows? All right, what's next?
I don't know if you care to touch on this Vitor Roy Jones thing. No,
not really. There's a lot of talk that Roy Jones Jr. responded to Vitor Belfort and called out for one championship. No, I really don't want to talk about it. Roy Jones fighting Vitor. Vitor, if ever gets in trouble during the fight, could just take him down or start kicking him. And if it was just a straight boxing match, like, Roy's chin's gone. You're fighting a guy. How old is Roy? 52, 53? He's 50 years old. I have no, like, when we talk about fight, I have no interest in seeing 50, that fight. Yeah. And you're fighting a guy who Vitor's what, 42? I have no interest in seeing that fight. None.
41.
Yeah, 41. So before you guys crucify me, because, you know, I did talk about how I was interested in watching the Ken Shamrock and Royce Gracie fight when it was in Bellator. The reason why I was interested is because it's Shamrock Gracie. It's like just the name itself had nothing to do with who they were. The other thing too is I wanted to see still if, like, Royce being a lot smaller, physically into, like, great conditioning, he's in physically in great shape with all of his crazy fitness stuff he does, even at his age, and Ken not really taking care of his body and things like that. It made for interesting, like, the small guy, the big guy, both older now, kind of the original guys that helped the sport grow from the very beginning. I was interested in the nostalgia of it all, I guess, for me, is really what I was interested in. But as far as the fight. I knew it wasn't going to be a great fight, and it ended up not being a great fight at all, or a fight even at all. But it was one of those things that I was excited to kind of, just because of the history of it all and the nostalgia of it all, and that's kind of why. But that would be it, man. That would be it. You know, I have no interest in the Roy Jones fight versus Vitor Belfort. Like, not at all. Even if it was free, I wouldn't watch it. Just I had nothing there.
Well,
this is interesting though.
Yep, there you go. I'll let you read it off.
This is very interesting. Anthony Johnson and everyone, if you guys haven't heard our podcast, I did a podcast with him. Sam and I did a podcast with him and Mike Goldberg. The two of them came on together. AJ and I have been friends for the longest time, and if you listen to our show, you'll get the full understanding of how close we are. And actually, I think today is his birthday, to be honest. What is today? Yeah, I believe today is his birthday. Today or yesterday was. I think it's today. Anyways,
March 6th.
Yeah, today. That's today. So yeah, I believe today's his birthday. So happy birthday, AJ. Happy birthday, my man. Wish you all the best. Doing big things up in Canada as well as down here. And yeah, look, if he is to fight Jon Jones at heavyweight, I don't know. He's huge right now. He's a big boy. He was big before, but he's a big boy now. If they're to fight at heavyweight, I mean, the power, it makes sense for him to want to come back and fight Jon Jones, because Jon Jones is the one guy that he was supposed to fight that didn't fight. The fight didn't happen. And he poses a threat with the speed and the power. If he touches Jon Jones's chin, Jon Jones may never be the same fighter ever again. You know, and I go back and I look, Gustafsson hasn't really been the same fighter since Anthony Johnson destroyed him, you know, in that fight. It was just, he's just got big power, man, super fast, super explosive. Now, you can see on his face, he is not in shape right now. So, but I also do know him very well. I do understand what he's looking for. He's looking for $1 million payday or higher to fight Jon Jones. I think it makes sense for them to fight. He also said that he would only fight Jon Jones at heavyweight. Makes sense. I mean, if you look at his pictures online right now, he's fucking enormous. Okay, he's a big, big guy right now. So I think it makes sense for them to fight at heavyweight and him to come off and say, like, hey, he's setting a standard. He's doing a little bit of what BJ Penn did. You know, like, set a standard for yourself. Stick by that standard. If you want to pay me $1 million, I'll come back and fight. Because if you look at the 205-pound division, outside of Santos, like, there's really no one else for Jon Jones to fight. And it makes sense. If Jon Jones is going to go to heavyweight, fight Anthony Johnson. DC's going to fight Brock. DC's going to retire. I'm telling you guys right now, DC is going to retire after he fights Brock Lesnar. Okay? Then you can have Anthony Johnson fight Jon Jones, have that fight happen. Then you can have Francis Ngannou fight Jon Jones. You know, and I don't know. Once the title has been relinquished by DC, you can have Anthony Johnson fight Jon Jones for the title. It's kind of unfair for him to come in and get an automatic title shot. But that's the fight that was supposed to happen at 205 that never happened, now going up to heavyweight. And it makes for a very interesting fight. It does make for but then you turn around, you have Francis Ngannou fight him as well. Two big, big punchers. Because the question is, can people get to his chin? And the guys at 205 are just not that tall or as long, as lanky. But Santos is going to be that guy. These guys now that are coming up, they have huge power. Jon Jones is going to have to be able to find ways to keep his chin tucked. And as he gets older, he's going to start to slow down a little bit. I mean, he's still young, though. What is he, 30 years old?
Jon?
Yeah.
He's 31, I want to say.
31? So, I mean, he's starting to get into that age, 32, 33, 34, somewhere in there. He will start to slow down a little bit. And that reach, you know, these younger guys can be able to jump in and get in there and maybe potentially touch his chin a little bit. We're going to see. We haven't really seen him get rocked or clipped clean by somebody with big power. So, I mean, my honest opinion is I would love to see the Jon Jones fight happen. Maybe Jon goes up and fights Ngannou first, and then turns around and fights someone like Anthony Johnson for his second title defense or something along those lines when all that opportunity comes. But I mean, I understand Jon Jones got some time. He's got a couple guys to fight in the 205-pound division. He's got Santos and he's got Blachowicz. Those are really the only two guys that I think would really stand a chance. What I mean by stand a chance is give him a good go. Give him I think the two of them are going to do a little bit better than Anthony Smith, but it's going to make for an interesting fight. That makes for a very interesting fight. I want to see those fights.
Do you think Johnny Walker with a couple more fights will be in there as
So
well?
that was already talked about earlier today that Jon Jones' camp and people from Jon Jones, people who are surrounding around Jon Jones had talked about that Johnny Walker makes for an interesting fight because he's so tall and long. So 6'6", 205. It does make for an interesting fight. I am very interested in seeing that fight.
But does he skip 13 other people? Or
No. They're gonna have him fight someone like Latifi first, maybe Manawa. They're gonna see if he can take a shot. They're gonna go Johnny Walker. I can see him go Johnny Walker, Teixeira, Johnny Walker, Latifi, Johnny Walker, Ozdemir, somewhere in there. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to jump him a little bit faster because he is so marketable and go right to Ozdemir or maybe right to Corey Anderson. I can see them maybe trying to do that, which puts him right up in that title contention if he has an impressive win. But from somebody like from if I was in Johnny Walker's camp, I would probably try to get him, maybe like Dominic Reyes or maybe like somewhere. I would probably I would try to maybe go somewhere in there, something that's like halfway between someone who wouldn't be as much of a threat. I'm sorry, Dominic, but I'm just saying, like, in that mix of guys like Corey Anderson, the potential to take down and wrestle fucking him to death, could take away some of the steam of building him up, of building a young new talent up like that. I'm not sure the UFC would be willing to take that chance, but you could put him right up into the mix against somebody like, I could see him maybe fighting Anthony Smith. That would be interesting if he jumped all those guys and went right to Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith's confidence may not be the same now after coming off of a loss for the title. You never know what you're going to get, and I could see that happening, but I don't think that they would do that. They're going to try to give him somewhere in that 9 to 10 range, 10, 9, 8 range. Dominic Reyes, Latifi, or Jimmy Manawa. I could see him getting somewhere in there. He's got, I think, 2 more fights, 2 more solid wins before he's even in the title contention talk. But that makes for an interesting fight with Anthony Johnson. And happy birthday, AJ. What else?
We'll jump to questions.
Let's see. What do you got? You got questions?
Yeah, I like this question from Ben. Since champ v champ fights have become a thing, what are the chances that Mousasi moves up to 205 and fights Bader?
There's a good chance.
Do you like that fight?
There's a good chance. There's a very good chance because I don't know if Ryan Bader can beat Czech Congo. The size, the power of Czech Congo, and I would have said the same thing against with Minakov. Minakov, the wrestling, the size, I don't know if Bader can do that. I think Bader looks phenomenal at 205. I mean, not 205, but at heavyweight. He's found his rhythm in Bellator. And people have to understand, a couple good wins get you believing in yourself again. And he's had, 7 wins now? 7? Yeah, 7 wins. And at 205 and at heavyweight, and he's beaten Matt Mitrione, he's beaten Mohammed, he's beaten King Mo, he's beaten Linton Vassell, he's beaten Phil Davis, he's beaten Nogueira, Fedor Emelianenko. He's beaten these guys, and he's looked really good doing it. His last loss was to Anthony Johnson, and and AJ just had too much power, and that was the biggest thing. So him fighting guys like Czech Congo, I want to see how it translates to him fighting guys like that. That makes for a fight that I think the fans we're gonna see. And if he doesn't do well against Czech, or he ends up with a loss, is he the same guy that's riding the win streak? Is his confidence still there? Is he a confident fighter moving into having to go back down to 205 after if he was to lose at heavyweight? And I could see Gegard going up right then and challenging for his title then. The other thing, though, too, is that I'm a little concerned with Gegard because he's not fighting as often as I would like him to fight. Yeah, I would like to see him fight a little bit more. For me, I love watching him fight. He's a technician. He's very just mild-tempered and just he's fucking so good, man. So good. Just technically, he's probably one of the best.
He's pretty funny as well.
He is funny. He's a super nice guy, man. He's a great guy. We fought on some shows in Pride together and back in the day, and he's just an amazing guy. Really nice. And yeah, I mean, and I was listening to one of Rogan's podcasts a long, long time ago, and with Brendan Schaub, and I think it was a Fight Companion or something. They were talking about he has that big dick confidence, and it's so funny because Rogan turns and goes, "Yeah, I've heard from guys in the UFC that when he goes in the sauna, he goes, goes free balls, and everyone's like, dude, he's got a big dick." And so I started cracking up, and he's like, and it was funny because Schaub just basically just straight up goes, I could see that now. It all makes sense, dude. He has that big dick confidence. Like when he walks around, just like, hey, what's up? But it's just funny. It's funny to hear that type of shit. It's funny. Anyways, I'm laughing about it now. But anyways, the only knock on him is I would like to see him fight more. That's what sucks. He always brings it. He's a great fighter. He's a technician. He's fought at heavyweight. He's fought at 205. He's fought at 185. He's pretty much been the champion wherever he's gone, except for the UFC just never gave him a shot. Didn't like him. And when the UFC doesn't like you, you're not getting that shot, man. And he's walking proof. He's walking proof that, with all those wins, scroll down. Yeah, all those wins. I mean, his last loss was to Uriah Hall, pretty much just flying knee and punches. But I mean, the rest of the fight, beat Latest, beat Santos. Thiago Santos. He beat Vitor Belfort. He beat Uriah after redeeming his loss to Uriah Hall. Beat Uriah Hall in the first round. TKO punches. Beat Weidman, Shlemenko, Carvalho is the way he wants. Roy McDonald. He's a great fighter, man. He's great. I want to see him fight. And I think what's next is not Vitor, but Lyoto Machida and him, who he has lost to. If you scroll down, he lost to him. I can't remember when. Gegard. Pay attention, buddy. Try to keep up. He lost to Lyoto Machida down there. Yep. In a 5-round fight main event. When was that? UFC Fight Night 36, Machida versus Mousasi, February 15th, 2014. Obviously, a lot of time's passed since then, but I believe that's the next fight that they're trying to put together, I think, is the Machida and Gegard fight. So that makes a lot of sense. I'd like to see that happen.
I thought they were going to have that...
Lovato?
Yeah.
But Lovato got injured, and Machida's healthy, and I think they're pretty much going to bypass Lovato right to the Machida and Gegard fight because the history is there also.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because he's lost to him.
Oh, yeah.
And your champion's lost to somebody like Machida, time for you to have him fight him.
You don't think they would try and get this fight over that fight?
What fight?
This fight we're talking about?
No, because Bader's going to fight. He's going to defend his title at heavyweight, I believe, first.
Jeez, you don't think he needs to do anything with the 205 belt right
205's not. There's not a lot of. They don't have a lot of guys at 205 that are ready to challenge for the title. So that's why he was able to go up to the heavyweight division. Now you have Czech Congo ready to fight him. So let's get that fight happening. That's the fight I believe that's the fight they're gonna make. And then that'll let you know whether Ryan Bader needs to stay at heavyweight or go to 205. He may just walk if he beats Czech Congo, he may stay at heavyweight. Physically, if he feels a lot better there. He said he feels great. I talk to him all the time. He says he feels phenomenal at the weight. He's like, I don't have to worry about cutting weight. He's like, that's a big portion of trying to make the 205 weight class. He's like, I feel great my whole camp because I'm able to eat and do whatever I want, eat whatever I want. But I still eat obviously really clean and take care of myself. He's like, but I can eat 5-6 times a day if I want, big portions, and still have great performances in the gym, where I don't feel loaded down versus when I feel pretty much kind of depleted when I'm trying to get my weight down, 4 weeks out from the fight. The last 4 weeks, I feel a little bit slower, a little bit more depleted when I'm trying to cut weight to 205. It makes sense. I think you're going to see Machida versus Gegard for Bellator, and you're going to see Czech Congo versus Ryan Bader. I think those are the fights that you guys are going to see. Coming up.
That Bellator insight. So this one's from the 316 Is there someone you trained with who would get wrecked during practice, but when they step in the cage they look like a world beater? I ask this because I've trained with Gastelum in Arizona in the past, and it amazes me how a guy can look so bad during sparring or grappling. However, come fight time, read more. Come fight time, he looks amazing.
Look, man, there's guys that when the lights turn on, they shut off. And there's guys that when the lights turn on, they don't look like the same person they look like in the gym. They just rise to the occasion. I mean, and I don't want to like toot my own horn, but you know, I was the guy that always looked like shit or didn't look great in the gym when the lights came on, and when it was fight time, I seemed like I performed pretty well. You know, there was a lot of the stigma around Vitor Belfort was that in the gym he was just a fucking world beater, like the most explosive, the best, and the guy was just submitting everybody off his back, submitting guys from the top, like taking guys down, taking, all these things. But then when the lights turned on, when he was fighting, he just didn't show up. That was always kind of the knock on him. He just couldn't win the big fight, and it just, he kind of just shut down when the lights turned on, and that's always been the knock on Vitor Belfort. He just never lived up to the hype that he could have potentially have been, and all the talk and the things that people had talked about of him in the gym just never came to fruition when the lights came on. There's other guys. I mean, I'm sure they're out there. I can't name any off the top of my head, but you put in the work. And the other thing too is that we have to remember when you're talking about somebody in the gym, okay, that person's in fight camp and they're tired all the time. Okay. So a guy who's training all the time, getting ready for fights all the time, he's training 2 or 3 times a day. I don't know who you are. Who is this?
The 316-8.
Yeah, 316-8. You probably just train. I'm not saying that you don't train all the time. What I'm saying, though, is that you probably are only doing 1 training session a day. And then you watch him from across the room train. Well, he probably already ran sprints at 6 a.m. in the morning at the track. Or he went and ran 4 or 5 miles in the morning. And then he probably had a meal. And then maybe did like a light workout. Or maybe he's at the fight gym doing his first fight. Or he's doing his training with the fighters. But he's already done sprints. Or he's already done a 3 or 4 or 5 mile run in the morning. And it's probably, and then after that in the evening, he's going to probably hit mitts and maybe do like a swim or something else, or maybe do wrestling drills or wall drills or whatever it is. But these guys are training 2-3 times a day, and they're not getting the adequate rest in between each training session, because sometimes the training sessions you train like at AKA. I think it's the worst training session, the worst training schedule a fight gym could ever had. And I've been the leading person to argue this with these guys, and they just don't want to fucking change it. And it drives me up the wall. Dude, they train at noon. You train from noon to 2. It's the middle of the damn day. Then you go home, you eat, shower, sleep. It's already like 3 o'clock by the time you get home and eat, and then you shower. By the time you get a nap, it's like you get anything. You got to be back at the gym by 5:30 or 6:30 to fucking hit mitts and do cardio or do the bike or whatever it is you do at night. You got to be there by 5:30 or 6. Like, you're up and you got to try to get a meal in again. That's only like 4 hours of rest. That's not enough time if you're going to get the best optimal performance out of your body. I don't really like training at 9 a.m. either, but I think the 10 a.m. call is good. By noon, you're done. You're on a normal schedule of like, okay, look, I eat breakfast at say 8 o'clock. I train at 10. Okay, then I have lunch at noon, which is right after my training. And then I have enough time from noon when I'm done training until like 5 o'clock at night, 5-6 hours. You don't go back to the gym at 5:30 or 6 o'clock. That's a good 6 hours rest. That's a lot better than 4 hours. Because you really can't, like, your body doesn't even start to slow down and relax and be ready to go to at least take a nap. And for like another hour and a half or 2 hours after you're done training, and it's always driven me nuts that whole ordeal has come about. So, when you look at guys in the gym, just remember they're probably on their second training session by the time you've seen them. And if they're not, and let's just say it's Thursday or it's Wednesday or Thursday, they've already trained 3 times, 6 times, in the last 2 days, and you've only trained twice. So your body's a little bit more fresh than theirs. And all the guys that they're training with, they're probably not in fight camp either. And if, that's why you're training with those guys, because you don't want to hurt them. They don't want to hurt you. You're training with the guys that are more fresh and not going to try to do something to always win because they're not in fight camp. They're going to try to help you train and implement your game plan. That's why they're there. So my suggestion is that you you can't look at it in a what is it? Like in a box. You have to look at it as like, well, yeah, you can't be closed-minded when you're looking at it. You have to look at it in the fact that they've trained probably three times already, or they already have a training session in early in the morning. Their body's probably tired. They're probably already 3 or 4 weeks into their training camp. They're training 2 or 3 times a day, 6 days a week probably. I mean, like, there's a lot of things that go into them looking like rock stars in the gym. I bet Gastelum looks like a rock star when he takes 2 weeks off and he comes in and he's just like, okay, man, I'm jacked up, I'm fully fueled, and I'm ready to fucking go. Just smashing these dudes probably, So, I mean, he's a fucking gamer if I've ever seen one. So the fact that you have you see him getting beat up in the gym, it means nothing. It means nothing. And all that matters, and this is a quote that I get from BJ Penn, is I don't have to be better than you every single day in the gym. I only need to be better than you one time at that night on that moment under those lights. And that's it. That's the only thing I need to be. I don't care how I look every single day in the gym. I only need to be better than you that night underneath those lights at that moment. That's it. That's perfect. That's all you got to do. That's all he needs to focus on. And then he does that. And that's why he's fighting for the title, the interim title, I believe. So, what's the next one?
This one's from Austin, and he asks, Stylebender versus Jon Jones at 205, is it a competitive fight?
I don't think so. I think Jon is too big. Just like a next level up. With Stylebender, still young, needs to do a little bit more improving. I think he's fucking phenomenal. Please don't misquote me on this, guys. He's phenomenal, okay? Definitely stylistically is very much like an Anderson Silva, but a young version. Very much like a Jon Jones, but a young version. But he just needs a little bit more maturing. He's kind of where Jon Jones was when Jon Jones fought, like, I want to say Stephan Bonner and those guys. Like, he's there, but is he ready yet for the next level? Like, even though he's fighting for the interim title, right? Even though he's fighting for them, is he there though? It's like he's got a lot of wins. He's good. He's definitely fun as all hell to watch. But I guess until somebody takes a loss, I want to see how they bounce back. I want to see them mature. Like, they haven't had to really mature yet. And so I want to see, I'm not saying I want him to lose. I'm just simply saying that I want to see him progressively get a little bit better. This is a big fight for him against Gastelum. I think he brings all the tools he needs to beat Gastelum. But Gastelum's one of, like I just said, he's one of those gritty ass fighters that you got to always be ready for. You got to be ready for just the push on the pace. You got to be ready for the wrestling. And I don't know if he's ready for that. Stylistically, he's got all the tools to do it. He reminds me a lot of the Anderson Silva and the Jon Jones guys, but can he do it? Can he do it? This is going to be a big test. Beating guys like Anderson Silva, to me, I don't think it means as much right now because Anderson Silva being as old as he is, and the USADA testing and things like that, he just hasn't looked the same. Scroll down a little bit. Just go Derek Brunson, Brad Tavares. I mean, like, he's beaten good guys, but he hasn't quite beaten the Gastelum or the Whitaker or the Yoel Romero, even like the Luke Rockhold. He hasn't beaten those guys yet. And so until I see something along those lines, it's a little suspect right now. I'm not saying I'm not a fan. I'm not saying I don't think he's not talented. I'm saying that he is all those things. But if you want to say the best guy that he's beaten is Derek Brunson and Anderson Silva, those are the two best guys. He's making steps up, but we haven't seen the Yoel Romero and the Chris Weidman and the Whitaker. We haven't seen that yet, and I got to get to that level first, okay? And I think Gastelum's the next step up from Derek Brunson and from Anderson Silva. Next one.
Last one.
Last one.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the last one, or you have a next one? Last one?
One more.
Okay, one more.
Corey Welch asks, hi Josh, I wanted to know what coach had the biggest impact on your career.
Oh, Javier Mendez. Now, it's different though. Coach and my manager My manager was somebody who is the reason why I got to where, like, the reason why I even came back into the sport or kind of put myself into the sport. It was my manager, was Bob Cook. The level in which I got there to, being number one in the world the first time around when I was with the UFC, being ranked and winning a world title, and with Strikeforce, coming back and beating guys like Nate Diaz and having those, that's Javier Mendez. I spent a lot of time with him at the track. I spent a lot of time with him, on the mitts, the pads, the bag, all those things. I spent a lot of time. If you guys haven't heard our podcast with him, with Javier Mendez, go back and listen to it. He drops a lot of knowledge about Khabib, myself, Cain Velasquez. Like, he talks about the history of AKA. I mean, we break it down with him, and he does a great job of giving you guys a little bit more insight on where, like, kind of what he's helped me come from and other fighters come from that have come up from AKA. Bob Cook, though, is the silent guy from behind the scenes. Bob and I, like, when I didn't have really a pot to piss in and things like that, was helping me. Him and I rented houses together. We always, we did business together on different things. He's somebody that has helped me in different financial areas, not by giving me money, but by, like, pointing me in the right direction. Like, hey, I'd recommend maybe buying this, this apartment complex, or buying this piece of property, or this is a good deal. He's that guy. He's always looking for a good deal and trying to help you make good decisions with your money. And I got to tell you, he's never let me down, man. I mean, like, I ended up buying a couple apartment complexes and duplexes and things like that, and they've always led to me making a lot more money than I would ever have thought on doing deals like that. And he's always given me good insight and always helped me. But he's the reason why I actually came down to AKA and started fighting and training under Frank Shamrock, and then training under Javier Mendez. He's the reason why. So when it gets to there, he's the reason why I'm where I am, like why I'm here. But Javier is the reason why I became successful. So the two of those they go hand in hand. And I think a lot of the guys that out of AKA will tell you that, from Josh Koscheck, John Fitch, Mike Swick, these guys. I mean, there was a lot of the two of them were a great tag team in the beginning when they first started this whole thing. The sport has grown so much, and they still have a great relationship, but it's a little bit more different now. It's just different. The sport itself has changed, which has changed, what goes on now over at AKA, and it's different. But he's still there Bob is still there for all of his fighters, all the guys that he manages, and Javier is still there for, all of the guys that are training at AKA. So I think I can't say one without the other. One got me into Javier's gym and working out and training, and then Javier picked me up and took me to the next level as far as, training me as an athlete. So the two of them kind of, to me, go hand in hand. That's it.
Okay.
All right, guys, hit the notification bell. Get notifications from when we drop new releases like this one right here. Also, hit the subscribe button if you guys can. I know you guys probably tune out and listen, but please do me a favor. Hit the like button, because that lets everybody else know that you liked it. If you have things in common with people on YouTube, things like that, they'll actually see that, hey, my friend liked this, and then they'll check out the video as well. And I would truly appreciate that, man. We're trying to grow this thing as much as we possibly can, and that will help. Share the videos as well. Post them on your Twitter, post them on your Facebook, and tell your friends to share them and post them if you agree with me. Look, I'm going to say some very controversial shit all the time, but I'm also going to give it to you straight. I have no reason to sugarcoat it. I have no hidden agenda. Look, right now we pretty much, we don't have sponsors. So what I'm doing is I'm just giving it to you from my heart. I have sponsors aren't telling me like, hey, I need to say this or I need to say that. I'm simply just telling you guys exactly from my experiences, from dealing with guys like BJ Penn, from dealing with guys like Cain Velasquez, DC, John Fitch, John, like all these guys, that I've come up with, Khabib, all these guys that I've come up with. I'm sharing the inner scoops of what's going on, either at AKA or just with the relationships that I have with them and experiences that I have with them. So if you guys like it, great. Share it, let it all out. Also, go back through our old podcasts. Like just today, we talked about Javier Mendez in that podcast. We talked about, what other podcasts do we have?
Brendan.
Brendan Schaub also we've had on. We've also had on Anthony Johnson and Mike Goldberg. So Goldie, you guys can check out that one. That one's a really good one as well. That will give you guys history and insight on all the people that I know and the people that we've had on, as well as our relationships and on how I know these people. Chuck Liddell as well has been on. Who?
Mind Pump and Shane.
Mind Pump. We did Shane Faison, who also does fight tips. That guy's a huge YouTube star, 2 million subscribers on his platform. Dwayne. I mean, these are all people that we've had on. Dan Leith, who does Lockhart and Leith, who does the nutrition stuff for DC, for Kane, for Conor McGregor. They do all this stuff for all these athletes, so check out that podcast. Well, go back and take a listen and take a look at some of the stuff we've done. We're on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Spotify. Check us out. Hit the notifications, hit the notification bell, and all those things. Hit the like button.
We give a lot of good predictions that come out true. Right here, 4 months ago, Adam Piccolotti said he wants Benson Henderson, and now he's got the fight.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of the early scoop.
Yep, that's another one that's happening. Also, Adam Piccolotti, and I just brought this up again recently. Adam Piccolotti's been on twice, I believe. Yep. And he's also fighting now Benson Henderson, which that fight is, he wanted that fight. He got that fight. That fight is coming April 27th here in San Jose in Bellator. And I believe that one is on Paramount Network and DAZN, both.
One of my favorite of all time, the hip-hop star Buddy was on.
You're such an asshole. Dude, that guy was so high that we couldn't even have a conversation with him. He was so high. I was trying to talk to him about like what it was like to work with Snoop Dogg and some other top artists that he'd been a fan of, and he just was like had no idea what was going on. If you got 10 minutes of your time, because that's as long as the interview is, because we couldn't really get a whole lot out of him, give it a quick listen. But it was definitely, I guess now that you guys know the backstory, you guys are gonna tune in and be like, God, man, what the fuck? You guys will understand. We had country music star Jimmy Allen on, who's also got a #1 country music song, Best Shot. Take a listen to that. Tyler Farr was on as well, another country star who happens to be really good friends with Dan Henderson. We talk about that.
Big Justin Willis.
Big Justin Willis, Big Pretty, baby. Big Pretty, he's on. He's got some big fights, big fight news coming up as well. There's all these guys that we've had on. Khabib's been on twice.
Frankie Edgar.
Islam. Frankie Edgar's been on as well. So you guys go back through our old shows. Give it a quick listen. Remember what they said. Come back and we'll do a fighter response or a fan response, and we'll give you guys. Brent Primus has been on, Aaron Pico's been on. We've had a lot of guys come on and and give it a listen. All right, guys. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Hit the subscribe button. We thank you for everything. Share, please, and like our stuff. Bye.